They sat me and my family by the gift table at my brother's engagement party like we were hired help, not family. When I asked why, my parents and the bride's dad said I'd embarrass them in front of their important guests. So, I picked up my phone, canceled a $7,200,000 0-cents deal with the bride's family business, and walked to the center of the party to expose their betrayal. Was I wrong to burn it all down that night? My name's James Carter, I'm 34, live just outside Boston, and I run a tech company called Nexus Solutions. We've grown faster than I ever thought possible. My wife Emily is a surgeon, the kind of woman who walks into a room and makes everything calmer. Our son Liam is 6, wild about computers and always full of questions I can barely keep up with. If you passed us on the street, you'd probably think we're one of those picture-perfect families. And for the most part, we are. But behind that polished frame, there's something raw. Something that still stings. I used to have a whole family. A mom, a dad, a younger brother named Ethan. Now, that feels like a different lifetime. 3 months ago, I walked away from all of them. It wasn't planned. I didn't go looking for revenge. But what happened at Ethan's engagement party flipped a switch I didn't know I had. Let me take you back, because the cracks started long before that night. It was about 4 months ago, one of those cool, clean evenings in Boston when the leaves crunch under your feet and the air feels like it's telling you something's about to change. I was on the couch, half watching the Patriots game with a beer in hand when my phone lit up. Ethan's name. I hadn't seen his name on my screen in over a year. We'd drifted. No fights, just space. I answered, and his voice hit me like a memory. "James, I'm getting engaged," he said, loud, excited like nothing had changed. "We're having a party at Ocean View Resort next month. You, Emily, Liam, you've got to come." I smiled out of habit, but my stomach twisted. Family parties have always been complicated for me. I don't walk into them and feel welcome. I walk in and feel tolerated, like I'm supposed to sit in the corner and keep my voice down while everyone else pretends I'm not there. Still, I kept it together. "Send me the details," I said. "I'll see what I can do." When I hung up, I sat there staring at the wall. I couldn't even remember who was winning the game. Emily must have felt this shift because she came over and sat beside me. I told her about the call, expecting her to say what I was already telling myself, "Don't go." But she didn't. She handed me a glass of wine and looked me dead in the eye. "You should go," she said. "He's your brother. If you don't show up, they'll twist it into another excuse to blame you for something." She squeezed my hand gently. Sometimes you have to face the past to move forward. And she was right. She's always right about these things. But even as I nodded, even as I agreed to go, something cold settled in my chest. I knew showing up wouldn't be easy. I just didn't know it would end with me standing in the middle of a ballroom, holding my phone, canceling a deal worth millions because of how my own family decided to treat me like I was nothing. The day of Ethan's engagement party started like any other formal family event, me doing my best to look the part and hold it together. I wore a sharp black Tom Ford suit that Emily picked out. She looked absolutely radiant in a flowing turquoise Vera Wang dress, the kind that made people turn their heads without even trying. And Liam? He was the proudest of us all, grinning wide in his little gray mini-suit he insisted on picking himself. Before we left, I knelt beside him and fixed his crooked tie. "Buddy, we're gonna see your grandparents and Uncle Ethan today. You remember them?" He tilted his head, thoughtful. "Not really. They never come to my birthdays, right?" That one stung more than I expected. I tried to smile. "Yeah, but they're family. Let's give it a shot, huh?" I was hoping, really hoping, that maybe this would be the time things were different, that maybe they'd see me, really see me, not as the screw-up from years ago, but as the man I'd become, a CEO, a father, a husband, someone who mattered. We pulled up to Ocean View Resort just as the party was hitting full swing. Music played softly in the background, guests laughed under fairy lights, and servers in white gloves carried trays of champagne. It looked like something out of a magazine. For a second, I felt like maybe we could blend in. But as we walked through the front doors, heads turned. The kind of turn that's not warm or welcoming, but sharp and whispered. I caught snippets. "Is that James Carter? Didn't know he still talked to the family." Liam grabbed my hand tighter. I bent down and whispered, "It's okay, buddy. I got you." But the air around us felt different, like we just stepped into the wrong room at the wrong time. We made our way to the reception desk where a young woman in a black blazer looked up and smiled professionally. "Name? James, Emily, and Liam Carter," I said clearly. Her smile faltered. She typed something, frowned, then looked back up. "I'm sorry, you're not on the main guest list." I felt my chest tighten. "Can you check again? I'm the groom's brother." She nodded, typed again, and then her face went still. "You're on the supplementary list. It says here your seats are by the gift table. Her voice got smaller near the end. I looked at Emily. She said nothing, just gave me a calm, steady glance that said, "Don't lose it here." Liam tugged my sleeve. "Why are we sitting in the back, Dad?" I swallowed hard. "Just a mix-up, bud. Let's go." The staff led us through the crowded, sparkling banquet hall, past tables filled with laughing guests, wine glasses clinking, white tablecloths glowing under chandeliers, and then, at the very back, almost behind a column, we stopped. 3 folding chairs. No flowers, no name tags, no one else around. Just a pile of brightly wrapped gifts stacked behind us like a wall of forgotten birthdays. We weren't seated, we were stashed, out of view, out of mind. I looked around, my throat tightening. This wasn't a mistake, this was planned. A message. Emily placed her hand lightly on my arm, like she could feel the storm building inside me. I leaned in and whispered, "I'll go talk to the planner, something's not right." Before I could take 2 steps, I saw them walking over. My parents, Richard and Patricia, and with them, a tall man in a perfectly tailored suit. William Thompson, the bride's father. Of course. My dad's face was already locked in that disappointed scowl I knew too well. "What are you doing, James?" he barked. "Trying to stir up trouble on Ethan's big day?" I stayed calm. "Why are we seated back here, away from the family? By the gift table?" My dad stepped forward. "Because having you up front would embarrass us." The words came out sharp, but it was my mother who twisted the knife. "Just sit where you're told and stay out of sight," she said, her voice like ice. Then Willem smirked and added, "This party's for important people, Carter, not someone like you." That line, that one sentence hit harder than anything else. I looked from his smug face to my father's silent approval, and then to my mother, who stared right through me like I was a ghost. I don't know what I expected. Maybe I thought years of success, of building my own company from the ground up, of becoming a father and husband, maybe all of that would finally be enough. But in that moment, it was clear. To them, I was still the failure, the one who never quite fit, and they weren't even trying to hide it anymore. I stood there, jaw tight, heart pounding, and realized something cold and undeniable. My own family had no intention of ever seeing me differently. I walked back to Emily and Liam, my mind moving faster than it had in years. Emily was crouched next to Liam, explaining quietly why we weren't sitting with the rest of the family. Her voice was calm but tight, the kind of tone she used when she was one breath away from losing her cool. She looked up at me, eyes searching mine. "What happened?" she asked. Already knowing it wasn't just some mix-up, I told her everything, my father's scowl, my mother's disgust, William Thompson's smug little line about me not being one of the important people. Her face changed, just slightly, but I could see it, that fire. She stood up straighter. "We should leave," she said. "Liam doesn't need to be around this." And part of me wanted to agree. Leaving would have been the easiest thing. Walk out with my dignity, protect my son, go back to the life we built without them. But that also meant letting them win, letting them walk away thinking they still had the power to humiliate me, and I was done with that. "No," I said, "not this time." She raised an eyebrow. "What are you thinking?" But I was already pulling out my phone. I scrolled to David Miller's number, my COO at Nexus Solutions, and hit dial. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. "David," I said, "I need you to cancel the Thompson Enterprises contract, all of it." Silence on the other end. "James? We're talking $7,200,000, 0 cents. We're 2 days from signatures. Are you serious?" "Completely," I said. "William Thompson just told me I wasn't important enough to be seated with my family. They shoved us next to the gift table like we're staff. I'm not doing business with people who spit in my face." David tried to be diplomatic. "Can't we keep business and family separate?" "No," I said firmly. "Not when family tries to crush you in front of your kid. Call Sarah Johnson, kill the deal." When I hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Free. Light. Like I had just peeled off 10 years of silent shame I didn't even realize I'd been carrying. Let me give you some context. Nexus Solutions, my company, develops cutting-edge supply chain systems. AI-driven, blockchain secure, top-of-the-line tech. We're not a garage startup anymore. We're valued at $50 million, 0 cents, and growing fast. 6 months ago, Thompson Enterprises came knocking. They needed our systems for their Northeast distribution network. Their COO, Sarah Johnson, worked closely with my team, but William? He didn't know I was the man behind Nexus. As far as he was concerned, I was just Ethan's big brother James, The one who didn't quite make it. That thought sat heavy in my chest as I remembered the earlier part of the evening. When Ethan introduced us, William barely looked me in the eye. "So, you're the brother they call a failure," he chuckled, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. I held my ground. "Nice to meet you, William. I've heard a lot about your company," he scoffed. "And what exactly do you know about Thompson Enterprises?" I smiled politely. "I work in supply chain technology. You're a big name in the region," he puffed up. "We're top of the food chain out here, actually about to ink a deal with some upstart tech firm," I nearly laughed. That upstart was mine. And in that moment, I made a choice. I wasn't going to correct him. I wanted to see how deep his arrogance ran. What hurt more than his ignorance, though, was how easily my parents fell into their old patterns. My father gave me a nod that barely counted as recognition. My mother gave Emily and Liam one of her hollow, polite smiles, the kind she used on strangers at church. I was invisible to them. Except this time, I wasn't going to stay silent. Back at the gift table, I knelt beside Liam and fixed his tie. "Let's look sharp, buddy," I said. "We're going to say hello properly." Emily gave me a look. "What's the plan?" I straightened my jacket and said, "We're going to be James Carter and family, loud and proud." We stood tall, brushed ourselves off, and walked straight into the center of the party. Eyes turned, conversations paused. The hum of background music felt suddenly louder as the three of us stepped into the light. Ethan and Olivia were speaking with guests near the champagne tower. He spotted us first, his smile faltering into confusion. William saw us next. His face twisted like he'd bitten into a lemon. He stormed over. "You're supposed to be at your seats," he hissed. "The gift table," I said, keeping my voice calm. "That's where you stuck the groom's brother. You don't belong in this crowd," he snapped. "Go back, or I'll have security remove you." That was it. That was the moment. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Call them. Go ahead, let's see how the press handles the story when you kick out the CEO of Nexus Solutions at your own daughter's engagement party." His face went pale. For the first time all night, he understood who I was, what I was, and just how badly he had messed up. Ethan stepped forward, confused and clearly rattled. "James, what's going on?" he asked, as if he didn't already know. I looked him straight in the eye, keeping my voice level. "Did you know they seated us by the gift table, away from everyone like we were just some hired help?" He blinked, looking down for a split second before forcing eye contact again. "I didn't know the details." That was a lie, and we both knew it. He didn't have to say it aloud, his body did. The way his eyes darted, the way he clenched his jaw. That lie hurt more than the seating. A guest nearby, sharp suit, neatly combed gray hair, stepped in, sensing tension. "William, everything all right here?" Then he glanced at me, something flickering in his eyes. "Wait, are you James Carter, as in CEO of Nexus Solutions?" I nodded calmly. "That's right, James Carter, founder and CEO of Nexus Solutions. You might know us as the startup. Thompson Enterprises is signing a $7,200,000 0-cents deal with." Then I paused, my voice steady as steel. "Or was signing." You could hear the clatter of a fork drop on a plate somewhere in the room. William's face drained. "You?" he said, choking out a fake laugh. "You're not a CEO. Your family calls you a failure." I didn't flinch. "Feel free to call Sarah Johnson your COO. She knows exactly who I am. In fact, she already got the call. The contract, canceled, effective immediately." William's face turned ghost white as he whipped out his phone. He turned away from the crowd, muttering into the receiver. Meanwhile, the guests were watching like it was theater. He hung up a minute later, his hand shaking slightly. "James," he said, trying to sound calm, "let's not let personal issues get in the way of business. We value what Nexus brings to the table." I didn't move. "No, William, I don't work with people who look down on me. I don't build success just to be insulted at a family party." Then Olivia, the bride-to-be, stepped in, clearly upset. "What's going on?" she asked, looking around in disbelief. I turned to her, and for the first time, I let some of my pain show. "They sat us by the gift table, Olivia, behind a column, like we weren't family." Her eyes widened. "What?" I asked. "The planner, for a separate table somewhere quiet so you'd have privacy. Not that." She turned and waved over a staff member. "Who placed them there?" The young server hesitated, glancing nervously. "It was requested specifically by Mr. Richard, Mrs. Patricia, and Mr. Thompson." The air changed. Olivia spun around to her father. "You did this?" she demanded, voice trembling. William stammered. "It's an important event. We couldn't risk." The image. Olivia's face flushed red with anger and embarrassment. She turned to me, her eyes brimming. "James, I am so sorry. That's not what I wanted." I gave her a small nod. "This isn't your fault, Olivia." Then came the moment I didn't know I needed. My parents walked over Richard with that same cold look he always gave me when I didn't fall in line, and Patricia with her arms folded like she had done nothing wrong. "What's this scene about?" Richard asked, more annoyed than concerned. Olivia turned to them before I could speak. "Why would you do this to your son?" she said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. My mother didn't blink. "James doesn't belong here," she said plainly, like it was fact. Those 4 words broke something inside me. I felt it snap. All the years I tried to earn their approval, all the moments I stayed quiet just to keep peace, gone. Ethan looked at me, his face pale. "James," he said, voice trembling. "I'm sorry." I stared at him. "You knew, didn't you?" He nodded slowly. "I thought it was just a separate table. I didn't know it would be like that." I stepped closer, not in anger, but in truth. "Then why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you stop it?" He looked down. "I was scared. I didn't want to disappoint Mom and Dad." I took a long breath, not to calm myself, but to hold back everything I could have said, the years of feeling small, the moments I bit my tongue. "Silence is betrayal, Ethan. I don't blame you anymore, but I can't trust you." He nodded again, barely breathing. The room was quiet, every eye on us, every fork and glass paused midair. William took a step forward. "James, let's talk. The contract—" I didn't let him finish. "We're done here." I turned to Emily, who was already holding Liam's hand. She gave me that look, the one that said, "I'm proud of you." I smiled, then looked at my son. "Ready to go, buddy?" He nodded without a word. We walked through that banquet hall, past stunned guests, dropped jaws and frozen smiles, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like the failure in the family. I felt like the man who finally stood up for himself, for his family, and for his worth. The next morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. like I always do, made a strong cup of coffee, and sat by the window, watching the soft morning light stretch across our backyard. The world was quiet, calm, and for the first time in a long time, so was I. Just as I was sipping my second cup, my phone buzzed. It was Sarah Johnson, our COO at Nexus. Her voice came through tight and tired. "James, William's losing it. He's called me 5 times already about the contract. He's trying to revisit the conversation, whatever that means." I explained to her exactly what had happened. The seating arrangement, the public humiliation, the way my parents and William treated us like we were less than nothing. Sarah went quiet for a moment. Then she said softly, "I'm so sorry." I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. "You didn't do anything wrong. But Nexus Solutions doesn't work with people like that. We're done with Thompson Enterprises." She understood. She always does. We said our goodbyes and hung up. 2 weeks later, I got a text from Ethan, "Can we meet?" It was short, but I said yes. We met at a little coffee shop in downtown Boston. He was already there when I arrived, 2 coffees sitting on the table, one black, one with cream and sugar, just like I take it. He looked nervous, fidgeting with the sleeve of his jacket. "How did you deal with Mom and Dad always looking down on you?" he asked, barely looking up. I stared at him, honestly stunned. He'd never asked me anything like that before. I took a sip before answering. "I don't anymore," I said quietly. "I let go. You can only carry shame if you agree to hold it." He nodded slowly, looking like the weight of his world was finally catching up with him. "They're controlling everything now. The wedding, my job, even where Olivia and I are supposed to live after." I wanted to comfort him, but I also knew he needed the truth. "You chose silence when they hurt me, Ethan. I understand why. But now, you have to face what comes with that." His shoulders slumped. "I know. I'm sorry, James. I really am." And in that moment, I believed him. Maybe for the first time in a long time. I didn't forgive everything, but I saw something in his eyes, regret, yes, but also the beginning of courage. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a new wedding invitation. "Olivia and I decided we're starting over. A small wedding, only the people who matter. No William, no Mom, no Dad." He slid the envelope across the table. "Please, come." I looked down at the invitation, the weight of it heavier than it seemed. "I'll think about it," I said, and I meant it. 1 month later, Emily, Liam, and I drove back to Ocean View Resort. This time, it wasn't with dread in my chest. I was still cautious, still guarded, but I wanted to see if Ethan was serious. When we arrived, he met us at the entrance with a hug that felt real, not forced. Inside the hall, I saw our seats front and center. A name card sat on the table that read, "Brother James Carter's family." Just 6 words, but they said everything. It wasn't about the placement, it was about being seen finally. The wedding was small, intimate, no William, No Richard, no Patricia, just laughter, hugs, quiet moments. Emily and Olivia bonded like old friends. Liam ran around with other kids beaming with joy, and when I looked up and saw Ethan and Olivia slow dancing under the string lights, something settled in my chest. They had chosen love over control, truth over performance. And maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something new, something honest. Healing is never quick. It doesn't come wrapped in a bow or with dramatic closure. But sometimes it comes in simple ways. A name card on a table, a seat saved just for you, a hug that doesn't carry old expectations. That day, I felt something I hadn't in a long time, peace, and I held on to it, tight. So, now I ask you, was I wrong to stand up for myself at Ethan's engagement party? Was I wrong to walk out rather than stay silent in the corner by the gift table? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you made it this far, do me a favor, like, share, and hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world. Until next time,